All right, hello, Tide fans. Welcome to Tide Talk Special Edition. I'm your host, Shawn Taylor. In the studio with me is Jimmy Messick. And in Zoom with us is Maurice Booth. Hey, Maurice, good to see you, buddy.
Hello. Afternoon.
Looks like a nice day wherever you are.
It is indeed. It's spring is here. Let's go. Spring
That's,
football is right around the corner.
that's right. So
If we can,
listen,
if we can get a roster together or finalize a roster, that'd be great.
well, that's one of the things we're going to talk about then. We've had some comments from some viewers, and one of the things of interest appears to be, transfer portal, how we're dealing with that, maybe NIL type thing. So we're going to talk about a few of those things. And I think, one of the things we're going to do with respect to adding to this show is we're going to offer our viewers an opportunity to send in comments or questions. And we'll do that probably via email. That's something that we're working on, but that'll come in the next show or so. But let's just jump into what, we were talking about, the transfer portal. There's a lot of conversation. We've had a lot of guys hit the transfer portal. Does that affect us tremendously? Does that, how does that hurt us? How does that help us? And we've done, kind of over the past few years, we've done pretty well. One of the things that just pop up in my head immediately is Jamison Williams, Jameer Gibbs, guys like that. So let's jump into that. Maurice, give us your thoughts. Transfer portal, good or bad? Yes or no? Do they need to regulate a little more? What's the deal?
Well, as we talked about in our text, we're going to kind of look into some of the aspects of what's going on this off season. And within the transfer, there's a lot of people that have questioned me and I've questioned you all. Currently, there is no rule that prevents any underclassmen from numerous or more than one, more than two transfer. They can transfer as many times as they want. As it stands now, there's an agreement between the NCAA, and there were 7 states that raised an antitrust lawsuit against the NCAA, saying it was unfair for them to try to put restrictions. And then a federal court in Upper West Virginia put basically a stay on that, saying the NCAA does not have a right to make a rule such as this at this moment, but we will revisit it later. But as of now, transfer, case in point, here's a possible, I'm just saying that a scenario that could happen. Caleb Downs went to Ohio State. He could come back to Alabama and play at the beginning of the 2024 season. There's nothing that would prevent him from doing so.
Right.
Nothing whatsoever.
Right.
So as far as the transfers go, I don't see anything that's going to stop them, because any student can transfer to any school outside of athletics as many times as they want. And that's what the athletes are arguing. So it's going to probably have to be an agreement between the Big Ten and the SEC, this advisory committee that's been put together. So I don't see anything that's going to stop it. So if there's nothing that's going to stop it, we need to go ahead. We, as in the University of Alabama, embrace it and go ahead and adjust to life with it and see how we do it. And so far, I'm kind of like I'm like you. Yeah, we've had some good ones. We've had a couple of good ones leave as well. But it's like Saban said, you can leave. Well, we can get people in.
Right.
It goes both ways.
Jimmy, you got an opinion or?
Yeah, I mean, the transfer portal, it's not like it just happened this year. I mean, it's been around for a few years now. And you're right, we have taken advantage of it. Now, not to the degree some other universities have used it. I mean, we have typically, we have been able to keep our roster intact, but Saban has used it, just again, here and there. And you're right with the 2 that you mentioned. Honestly, the guys that have left, I mean, most of them leave because they're not playing, and then I don't know where they go. I don't know what they do. I mean, I seem like maybe there's the Jackson kid that showed up at Oregon, DB.
Tyree Jackson.
I know. I guess he has some success at Oregon, but honestly, man, when they leave Alabama in the portal, I have no idea what they're doing outside of if they're playing, if they made a roster. I mean, I have no idea. So I say that because I don't think that's really affecting us losing them. Now, would it be nice to have kept some of them? Sure. Would they have been probably stars at Alabama? Absolutely. But obviously, we've been in the playoff. We're still running, in the running for winning championships. So losing players hadn't really affected us that much. But again, getting a few of those players has certainly helped, no doubt. But I wanted to ask this or bring this up. A scholarship is year to year, right? I mean, technically, they have to sign the scholarship every year. So technically, I guess. With that being said, if the university could pull that scholarship year to year, then why wouldn't that kid still have an opportunity to leave year to year? And I know it's never happened until recently, but it's not like they sign a 4-year contract. They sign a 1-year contract.
Yeah. Listen, I think at some point in time, you were just mentioning an advisory committee or what have you. There's got to be, what does it say about a kid that is constantly moving? And I'll throw out and I'm gonna butcher his last name, but the Abugbier, the quarterback that was at Clemson, he went from
DJ
Clemson.
Ukulele.
Yeah, he went from Clemson to Oregon State. Now he left Oregon State this past year, and he started at Oregon State, and now he's at Florida State, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
What does that say to a coach when a kid is jumping, all over the place? Is the Florida State guy, if he's got another year left, if he starts for Florida State this year, is he going to be the starting quarterback next year? Is he going to go somewhere else? I think at some point there's got to be some regulation. But as a coach, that would be in the back of my mind. Do I invest? Do I just get 1 year out of him and do the best we can, and then we'll just deal with that at the end of the year? I don't know. Loyalty has just always been a big thing, but clearly it's not in this day and age.
Well, it's not only that. It's like DeBoer, I believe it said to you that one of the hardest things now is recruiting your own team to stay
internally.
So, yeah. So to Jimmy's point, a scholarship is a 1-year contract. So you, as a staff, as an administration, are dealing with free agency almost every day of the year, if not, every 4 to 6 months, because players can come and go. And DJ Ukulele started at Clemson, was there for a couple of years, went to Oregon State, now is going to be the starter at Florida State. So I think what you're thinking of, Shawn, is I would say traditional way of thinking. The game has changed to where it almost is for every decent team. You better coach them for a one and done.
Yeah.
So
you had a comment, Jerry.
Yeah. So again, like you said, man, it's the way of the times right now as far as portal is concerned. I don't think it's going to change as far as allowing these kids to go and come as they please. I think one thing that they definitely need to look at, though, is the timing of when that portal window opens. If you remember, right, especially for the teams, affects the teams or the kids, especially the teams in playoffs. Because, kids are having to make decisions. Well, am I leaving? Am I not leaving? So, we had a couple of guys hit the portal when we were getting ready to practice for the Final Four. So I think, that's probably going to change or adjust as far as, when you can or can't get in the portal. But I think the portal's here to stay, unfortunately.
It's a great time for a break because I want to come back and ask the question of how NIL, affects all of this. So hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Beam, the choice you deserve, bringing the game to your home.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. Yes, Jimmy, I think it's here to stay. But I'll ask you first, Maurice. Do you believe? I think the answer is yes, but I just want to hear your opinion. How much does NIL impact the portal, or does it impact the portal?
I think there's a direct correlation between the two. Maybe not always, but let's be honest. A lot of these kids, we saw Vaughn post, going, to Texas about $700,000 in a Lambo. Now, I doubt if he owns a Lambo, it's probably at least for him to use while he's there. But and Jimmy, that's a Lamborghini. Just to let you know if you weren't hip on the lingo. You're welcome. So yeah, I think they're directly related. A lot of times it is about playing time, and then other times I think in this situation it's highest bidder. I thought it was kind of a oxymoron, or it really was hypocritical for Caleb Downs saying, the one thing I learned from Coach Saban was commitment.
Commitment. Yeah.
Gotcha. I don't think you did, but okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, I think that there is a direct correlation. I mean, these days, for some kids, it's about playing time, but for a lot of kids, it's about, show me the money. The rumor was Downs went to Ohio State for like $1 million. And again, that's rumor. I don't know that for fact, but a lot of people were surprised, really surprised that he did not go home to Georgia, which everyone thought that was going to take place, especially when T-Rob, moved there. But he goes, sounds like he was following the money, and that's one of the struggles that I have. I've said for years, before the NIL began, I've said for years, these guys ought to get, they ought to get some type of royalty, because we were selling Julio Jones jerseys like they were going out of style. University of Alabama, Jones number 8. We were selling those like they were going out of style. They should get a little something, but this is over the top. I mean, and at some point, in Shawn Taylor's opinion, someone, the NCAA, is going to have to do something about that. Whether that's go ahead.
The one thing that we do know, that is fact, that is not rumor, is that the University of Tennessee received a letter of investigation, which is directly related to this type of supposedly unscrupulous recruiting or trying to get players through NIL deals, which I'm not, and I think the majority of everybody in the SEC outside of Tennessee fans are not Tennessee fans. But we're like, whoa, wait a minute. You're saying it's okay to pay them. So this school over here is paying them, and now you have them under investigation. Supposedly, it's all these schools that have had incredible recruiting classes or these transfer deals that have come in. And going back to what you just said in the last segment, how much of it is it tied to NIL money?
Yeah.
Most of that is. So, Ohio State has spent $13 million since New Year's Day on coaches and players. $13 million. What was that, 35 days ago?
Yeah. One of the things and for our viewers, and maybe and maybe you don't know, but when we reference NIL, we're talking about name, image, and likeness. And I'll be honest, I'm not an expert with respect to NIL, but I was going to reference, Tennessee being under investigation. How do you manage that? I mean, how,
where's the line?
Can the universities give money with respect to NIL?
So
what is the legality of that?
So, NIL basically in a nutshell is there for any student athlete to, again, make money on his image and likeness. That can be done in a lot of different ways. At Alabama, we have every school, but our entity is called Yay Alabama.
Right.
You could give to it. I could give to it. Mo could give to it. Anybody listening or watching this show can give money to Yay Alabama.
And we actually solicit, I say they actually solicit people to give.
But yes, you're right. And so the more money is in that pool or pot, the more we can pay out and whatnot. Now, as far as how certain limits or terms are negotiated within each player, now that also comes with when you see kids that are being sponsored by
Dr. Pepper,
a restaurant,
Dr.
or Kool-Aid being Kool-Aid. that's another thing that's within the rules of NIL. So that's why, you know, somebody like a Kool-Aid McKinstry can make, say, more money than the next guy because he's got that direct sponsor with, you know, Kool-Aid. But again, it's there for all these kids. So, but somebody like, you know, Caleb Downs, you know, if he made $1 million at Ohio State, if that's what he truly got, I mean, he technically could have done that at Alabama.
Right.
So, you know, again, so that's why I'm really, you know, it blows my mind that these kids are leaving, if they truly are leaving for money, because I mean, it's not like we don't have it. Now, again, we may not have it as much as some of these other universities. You know, I have read and seen where Saban didn't really, I mean, we had it there, but we didn't really use it because his whole thing was, look, man, come play for the University of Alabama, come play for Nick Saban, and you'll earn your money.
Right.
But we're not going to give you $1 million just to come play here to start with. And that's one thing that we can appreciate and respect that Coach Saban had done.
Yeah.
Or did. But yeah, so the fact that, you know, this pool of money's there, you know, for any, you know, any student athlete, it's not just in the football world, I mean, that's what we're talking about, but and it does absolutely have a direct reflection of the portal.
Absolutely it does.
And recruiting.
Absolutely.
I mean, so I know since we're talking about it, take a guess at who our #1 NIL guy is on the team right now. Gets the most money in NIL. Who'd you
I would say Miller.
over $1 million. At the moment, he's the only player we have on the football team, actually in the university is what I saw, that's making over $1 million. I think it was like 1.6 or $1.7 million. The next closest one was like 600,000. But what was interesting to see, I looked at the top 10 on the football related athletes. 3 of the top 10 are incoming freshmen that are in high school right now. That surprised me. So again, I mean, it is going to affect it is affecting everything.
To your point, yes, we, as in the University of Alabama, could have paid Caleb Downs X number of dollars. It's what I said before. You don't see kids that just, you know, and I'm going to use you as an example, Maurice. You know, of course, this was, you know, earlier, but you wanted to go and play at the University of Alabama because of its tradition and maybe to play for Bear Bryant, right? I mean,
how old is that guy? Golly, Bear Bryant, really? Jeez.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, and we're going to come up on a break, but I want to get into this because it's relevant. But, you know, you don't see that anymore, the commitment to the university, or just, man, I want to play for the University of Alabama. So hold on to that thought. I want to come back and just talk to you, Maurice, specifically because you did play there. Tide fans, we'll be right back. Hold your seats. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Beam, the choice you deserve, bringing the game to your home.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. You know, Maurice, again, let's go back to what we were just saying. I mean, you know, I know NIL wasn't around back then. I get it. But I
got paid.
What was the driving force behind you going to play football at Alabama?
I wanted to play for the University of Alabama. I wanted my degree to say the University of Alabama. I wanted to continue playing. I knew that I wasn't at that level, but also, and not too far behind that, I definitely wanted to play for Coach Bryant. You know, that was a dream come true. So yeah, all of that comes into the play there. So yeah.
And we don't see that anymore.
No, I mean, I think you may have had
very rarely.
I mean, we've got guys, obviously, we mentioned them, I think, on the last show, the leadership we have out there now that are gumps,
committed. That's right.
As we're called, you know, they are true gumps. I mean, Roberts, Booker, Malachi Moore. I mean, they are
Deontay Lawson.
They are bleeding crimson. You know, they want to be there because it's University of Alabama. Yeah, granted, it'd be great to finish their career under Saban. They've come out and said that, but they're there to play for the University of Alabama. So it does still happen, but not as much and not like it was, you know, even 20 years ago.
Maurice, what were you saying?
I think there were still some, and I think there's probably some walk-ons on our roster, and to your point, some scholarship players, but have a special place for walk-ons. But I think that there's some that probably wanted to come there and wanted to play for. Well, heck, you know, the players did. That's why a lot of them left, is because
Nick Saban.
Saban stepped down,
Yeah.
which is understandable. And then there's some that absolutely just love, you know, the crimson and white. Being able to put on the crimson is you know a great honor, even if it's during practice. But to you know, I think that there are kids out there, you know, try to find that coach. It's hard to find the legendary coaches like John McKay, Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler. Could have been some that wanted to play for Harbaugh at Michigan, although he wasn't there as long as, you know, Saban was at Bama. But I think there's a few out there that have that desire, but it's not great like when we were kids. And you can name, you know, 10 to 15 coaches that have been at their school forever that were somewhat legends, but not
Yeah.
as legendary as the two we've had.
Well, I was just going to say, speaking of Harbaugh, have y'all heard a whole lot about Michigan players leaving?
Nope. I haven't seen nothing.
But no, but
None of their players are on our radar. I haven't seen any players come and visit Alabama from Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah. But what were you going to say?
also look at the time, you know, the time of year. I mean, classes have already started. He was an assistant coach that.
Yeah, but they were given
got
30
promoted.
days once he made
Right.
his announcement to move. They were given 30 days.
Yeah, but I think you'll see a lot more, as you usually do, after spring practice, after everybody has their spring
Right.
third week in April. So.
That's right. Yeah, the portal does open again.
Yeah.
In that time. But no, what I was going to say is, I just wonder in the portal. So we're talking about the University of Alabama, because I think I don't know if it was last week's show, but we talked about recruiting on a national scale, getting kids from Canada and overseas and California and Hawaii. They obviously didn't grow up like we did in the state,
right,
or in the South, and so. I just wonder, again, I haven't even looked at it, but I just wonder how many of these kids that we lose in the portal aren't like Southern kids or aren't Alabama kids. Right. Or they're that kid out of Texas, or they're that kid out of California, or that kid, from Jersey or whatever it might be. So I'd be curious to see what the percentage of the portal are those types of kids that didn't grow up necessarily pulling for an Alabama as a child, so.
And speaking of recruiting, I think you had mentioned in the break that, tomorrow's National Signing Day.
Yeah, today used to be one of the most important, or one of the coolest, not most important. Tomorrow's used to be one of the most important, but this was always, the eve, National Signing Day Eve. Everybody got excited, looking forward to tomorrow. We used to have those fax cam girls, used to bring in I remember back in the day when that was going on. But now, because we have the early signing period, tomorrow is really almost non-existent. Now, we do have two kids that are signing tomorrow. The wide receiver out of Mobile,
right,
Mr. Football, down there, and then the kid out of Arizona. Williams, yeah, and then the kid out of Arizona that he just picked up an offer from us, and he's signing tomorrow. But yeah, tomorrow is National Signing Day. Number 2 class in the country. Not far behind Georgia. So, again, we're still good.
Yeah, I was reading the article about Ryan Williams, and it was actually a comparison to Julio Jones and how he kind of embraced that or whatever. I haven't watched the kid a lot. I've seen some highlights and stuff like that. But I'm looking forward to seeing him, because I'm going to tell you what he's not shy of, or what he doesn't lack is confidence. I mean, he is extremely confident and believes he is going to be the next Julio Jones.
He didn't compare himself to Julio.
Somebody did, right? That's right.
He said, "Hey, I'm gonna be better."
I'll take that, and I'll top that. Yeah. So that is that's exciting to see. I mean, I'm all about the kid having confidence in their abilities. Of course, you got to get out there and do it. You got to get out there and show it.
And one thing interesting, just to back up what I talked about earlier about the top 10, he was not in the top 10. He wasn't one of the 3 Yeah.
freshman, the incoming freshman.
He
with
was
the-
not one of the freshmen in the top 10 NIL,
Huh.
which is surprising.
Pretty interesting. I mentioned to you guys that when Coach DeBoer and Coach Womack were here in Phoenix City, just the statement that Womack made, because we were talking about the people leaving, and it was more or less we were recruiting internally, so nobody was really going to see the fruits to that labor, because it was recruiting the kids that are already here and trying to make sure they stay here. And he just made the statement that look, man, don't panic, because we're really good. And we talked about the number of 5-stars just on the defensive side of the ball, as you mentioned, I think your statement was the cupboard's not bare, it's not empty, and he says the same thing. So I'm excited to see what this coaching staff does. We've had some conversations with some friends of mine at the school and things like that about, can he do it in the SEC? And that all remains to be seen. I think but we're putting together another good recruiting class, number 2. And so, it'll be up to him to see what he does. Yes, sir, Mr. Booth.
Has anybody got an update on Grubb, the offensive coordinator?
I have not. I saw that he had not officially signed a contract yet
With us?
with us.
Well, the report that came out about him possibly going to Seattle, again, came out of one guy that was just what I read was basically just doing it for clicks. He just wanted some attention to himself and his little website. I haven't seen any other person say anything about it now. I can't sit here and say that he hadn't talked to Seattle maybe, but I haven't seen one other report saying that his name is being linked to that job.
And I hadn't heard anything about it since then. To your point, it was somebody trying to probably draw some attention, and I hadn't heard anything since then. So, at this point,
it doesn't mean he won't go, but I haven't seen anything on it. I mean, he's still recruiting. I mean, he's still doing, they had junior day this past weekend. He was all there dressed as Crimson. And so, I mean,
yeah. And right now we
Well,
got
if I'm
to be in there. So,
Well, if I'm DeBoer, I'm working on, we got to start planning spring. Are you in or out?
right.
right.
I got to plan ahead.
So, it looks like we'll do it again next week. Fans, look, send us an email, get in touch with us, make a comment if you're watching this on YouTube. Let us know what you'd like for us to talk about. Maybe there's something we can address. If you got a question, we'll try to do that. We'll do it again next week on Channel 207, right here on Tide Talk. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.